And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Well, hello everybody. We're back again with more Starship fun. It doesn't seem that long ago since we were watching Flight 9, does it? Well, guess what? This is Flight 10 preparations. This is Booster 16, and this is a brand new booster, which is something we're actually saying now because they've actually reflown a booster off a Starship program, which is much sooner than I expected. And this is going to be static fired, 33 engines on pad A. So it's exciting, and this is a fun part of the preparations for the next flight of Starship, which could be this month. To talk about that, I'm joined by Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, we are here with a brand new booster. We'll see maybe if SpaceX says something about the engines, because you never know. Maybe some of them might be flight proven.
Indeed. And we might have Max for a bit, but we are trying to cover two events at the same time. And of course, the way the spaceflight gods work is everything will happen at once. But for now, hello, Max.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, it's just the nature of spaceflight activity. Everything just converges at one time. But we are here for it, and there are certainly worse problems to have out there.
Indeed, yes. And you know the routine by now. If you've got any questions, do a NASASpaceflight, followed by your question. It goes into a panel. The reason why we say that is not some kind of like, please tag us. It's a way that when your question is tagged, like Severin just did there, it goes into a panel. And that means I can look at the panel, go through it, and there's no time restraint on it. Because if I was just reading live chat, which I do anyway, that question would have fallen off the edge of the screen within 10 seconds, and that's when you lose questions. So that's the way around it. That's the way we can find questions that were asked. Maybe, 10 minutes ago. It might even be longer. Don't think we're ignoring you. It's just a case of us getting round to the questions. But I'll tell you what we'll do for now. A lot of people are joining going, well, that's very interesting, Chris, but I just want to know what's going on. Well, Alex, why have we gone live? Is it because of something to do with the orbital launch mount vent?
Yeah, so we saw what we affectionately call the Pope vent. That vent sort of on the right over the grass there in the distance. And that's sort of the conditioning of the tank farm and everything. But then after the tank farm is conditioned, then they also condition the lines that go to the orbital launch mount. In fact, you may see some of those sort of the ones that go from the leg up to the left, and sort of where the vent is. Those two pipes are frosty right now because there's liquid oxygen and liquid methane flowing through those. That vent is essentially gaseous oxygen coming out from the liquid oxygen line, because the pipe is getting frosty. And therefore, that means the oxygen has been warmed up, right? And so it boils off, it turns into a gas, and that's what they're venting there on the OLM. Once that vent closes off, that is going to be our clue that they're doing propellant load on the booster. So that's the next thing that we'll be looking for. Based on the timings of all of these things and what we've seen in the past, we may see a test of Booster 16 around somewhere between 2 p.m. 2:20 p.m. sort of around that time frame. We'll see as we get closer and closer. We'll see other clues and things like that. We'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, that's pretty much where we are today.
I think Max has left us already, which is amazing because what we've done is we've started this stream hoping there'll be some separation between that and the moon landing, but the moon landing is getting closer and closer. And I need to do some tweets, by the way, whoever's producing this one, because I can't be talking and the moon landing's going on and I'm ignoring it. So someone's going to take over that. This is not organised at all, but not to worry. I'm going to focus on Booster 16. Alex, shall we ignore the moon landing and just focus on Booster 16? Because we're Starship fans. I want to watch both. I wonder if we can find a little insert. Maybe when the actual landing happens, like the last 10 seconds or something, we just insert it. And knowing our luck, Booster 16 will just fire up exactly the same time. Oh my word.
Well, thankfully, if people have multiple tabs, they can open a separate tab, and we're going to be live as well covering that landing. So, just saying.
You know what, Alex? One of the main questions I'm seeing is people asking, when is this going to launch? Based on this being a good static fire of the boost, which we fully expect, what is the earliest you'd expect them to be able to set a net date for Flight 10? Again, knowing that they've not fired up Ship 36 yet either.
I'd say potentially, like, if they really, really go fast, could be at the end of the month, but most likely, I will venture to say that it's probably going to be into July. We'll see. Although it cannot be on July 4th because that's a national holiday in the United States, and they cannot close the beach that day. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's probably going to be around that. I'm more of a. If I were to bet on this, of course, I will probably put it in July, but we'll see.
Very good. Yes, we do see a lot of people asking about the moon mission in the Starship stream, which is going to be fun. We do have another stream, if someone will tell me where it is, and I'll be able to link it, because that will be coming up soon. But yes, we are currently in the orbital launch mount event. What is the next event to come up with? What's the next big milestone as far as propellant goes?
Yeah, so we should see that OLM vent stop, which should be in a few minutes. I'm trying to sort of track all of this. Potentially, perhaps in the next 15-20 minutes or so. And so you can see actually there, those two pipes there. The one on the bottom is for the liquid oxygen. That's where the OLM vent is coming. And then you might see that there's obviously no venting for the liquid methane pipe because, well, it's not allowed to vent that just, nilly-willy, so to speak, right? So that pipe, in that case, it sort of wraps around the other side, and there's a return line for that liquid methane. So that's going on in the background. You might see as well a lot of high-pitched noises as vents open and the pumps start running and things like that. So that's one of the things that I will essentially be keeping track right now as we get closer. That's one of the many things that should be happening. Those subcoolers, the ones that are used for loading propellant, those are going to be very, very active very, very soon.
Very good. Let me thank some people because we do have a lot of people who always support us, and it's very important. I appreciate them for doing so because without it, we wouldn't be able to provide you all these views. Seriously, it'd be that simple. Logic Satana became a Padrat member. Welcome. Mafia Map, welcome to Capcom member. Well done. You'll be in our Discord as well now with that membership level. Phil Gift a Red Team membership. Space Pope, bless this test. Thank you, Space Pope. We need Space Pope. Soundboard. I still don't have a soundboard. I need everyone in chat to complain that Chris does not have a soundboard because I keep asking for one, but they won't give me one. It's very mean because I could do the Space Perp noise for that. Never mind. And then Mafia Matt's back with, will the V3 boosters have closed port for the HSR hang on. I'm going to put that into the ticker, Alex. If you want to try and digress that question into a answer, I'd be very much appreciative.
Oh, yeah. So this is asking, if you remember from Flight 9, SpaceX closed off a bit of the hot staging ring in order to be able to do a controlled flip. So prior to Flight 9, every single flip of the booster after staging was sort of in random directions, mainly down to, the little non-symmetrical parts of the thrust from the ship and things like that. Like, you ignite the engines, and there's like tiny differences in where the thrust is pushing and blah, 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 all that stuff. And it pushes against the booster. And so those little asymmetries sort of, directed where the push will go, and the booster will just follow along, right? And so it will just be along those lines. For Flight 9, however, they try to control that by blocking a little bit of the hot staging ring. Now, for version 3 of the booster, they will not do that. What instead they're going to be doing is they're going to be actually, how I just said that previously, it was like, little asymmetries, random asymmetries on the thrust from the ship engines. Well, now what they're going to be controlling is, on version 3, is that asymmetry of the thrust. So what they're going to be doing is doing a little bit of asymmetrical thrust on the ship engines, and that's going to be what directs the push of the booster back to do the flip, and therefore that'll determine the direction that it's going to be taking during the flip, and therefore they will not need to close off any parts of that hot staging interface on version 3.
Alex, Ethan's got a question that I know you probably only answer to because I know you like your timelines and spreadsheets. Ethan asks, is this the quickest the booster has been back at the orbital launch mount after a launch?
Booster 13 was very close to that between flights 5 and 6. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was around 10 days for that one. So I think this is faster, but only by like a few days, right? And in that case, if I'm not mistaken, the turnaround was roughly 37 days between flights 5 and 6. I actually did the math yesterday on, using my spreadsheet and everything. And I said, if this turnaround were to be the same as flight 5 and 6, which currently is the shortest one, then the flight 10 will fall sort of around the July 4th holiday, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what seems to be happening here. Booster 16 was pretty much ready months ago. We actually had this sort of debate of, are they going to test Booster 16 before Flight 9 in what if situation, right? But yeah, it was pretty much ready. It was just a matter of doing a few inspections of the pad and things like that, making sure that things like the plate, the deluge system, the tank farm, all of that still worked, and all that. We saw them doing weld inspections on the legs, for example, doing some repairs there. They still have a lot to be able to ready this for a launch. It's not the same to be readying this for a static fire than for a launch, mainly because for a launch, the booster roasts the entirety of the launch ring. So yeah, but it is definitely the fastest. I mean, this, as I said, this booster was already ready before Flight 9.
Very good. Severin asks, do you think they'll ever do a long duration booster static fire? So let's pretend this is McGregor for a second, because they do long duration Falcon 9 static fires at McGregor. But I think that would be a big risk with the orbital launch mount, but maybe with the orbital launch mount too. So could they do it, and would they ever need to do it?
I think, yeah, no, I was just trying to think about it, because the problem with a long duration booster static fire is that's 33 Raptor engines, right? Like, even when it's run, like today, for example, right, they're gonna be doing, we hope, 33 engine static fire. When they do the static fires, they don't run them all at full power. They run them sort of like a partial power, like 50% or so. But even at 50%, it's still the thrust of the Saturn V, right? Saturn V needed a really big test stand to test that first stage for a full duration burn, which coincidentally was around the same burn time as the Super Heavy booster. So you will need a really big sort of test stand for that. You couldn't do that here. And as far as I know, I haven't seen them building that, right? And I don't think they'll ever do that. It's been very proven that at least for this version of the booster, it's been pretty much reliable during ascent to do, to need a long duration static fire of the booster.
Very good. I do have more support I want to thank out. I'm trying to see who else is joining us while trying to work out if we are live with
Hi.
the Moon stream. Hello, Jack. I need help. I am doing 50 things at once and I am not organized for this. So I do want you to wax lyrically about where you are right now because you are at Starbase.
Yeah, forgive the little bit of wind noise you're probably.
Whoa. We'll come back to Jack later. A little bit of wind noise, Jack said. Sorry about that, chat. I'm sure you're all wanting your headphones repaired now. Yeah, windy ? We'll come back to that. But yeah, I'm more intrigued about what the next milestone for Ship 36 may be, Alex, because it is currently in High Bay 2, but it's hiding. We've got two ships we can see, but that's 37 and 38. 36 is off to the left behind the door, which we can't get an angle on. But when 36 goes out to masses for its static fire test, that could be any time, really, couldn't we? Just don't know what the readiness is for it.
Yeah, we just have to watch out for the transport closures and things like that. You know, the whole reason why we knew this was going to happen today was because, you know, a couple of days ago on the Starbase website, because now they have a website and all, they posted a closure that was from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. closing the beach and everything. So it was like, that kind of sounds like some kind of test at the launch site. And right now, the only testing that they do is these static fire tests of the boosters. So that was one of the clues. So if we see a road closure that is about transportation, right? And it says something along the lines of like from factory to Massey's and things like that, then that could be that Ship 36 going out for a static fire test at Massey's. But we'll see. For Flight 9, you remember, Chris, they seemingly sort of tried to do the static fire of the ship very close to the launch, while the booster, you remember that they did booster 14 static fire test like really soon after Flight 8. But for the ship, they waited a long time, and we thought it was, oh well, that might be down to them, you know, repairing things, trying to fix the things that happened on previous flights, blah blah blah, right? But who knows? Maybe they'll try again that on this flight as well. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be a little bit later into the month, and as soon as they do the static fire, they just put it on a transport stand at the Mega Bay 2, and then they just roll it out to the launch site for launch. We'll see how it goes.
Hey,
We've got a great view.
Sorry about the wind.
That is better if you're very quiet though now, Jack. Keep
How about
talking, Jack.
now? We're doing it live.
Keep going. keep going higher.
Hey, this is my voice when it's not blasting your ears out with wind.
There we
I'm
go.
really, really sorry about that.
There we go. We're there now, Jack. Finally. I did want to bring up this view we got right now, which is 2 launch towers. We are seeing the current and the future, and the way that the current one we're seeing right now with booster 16 on top will be converted to what Pad B looks like now. And I have a question related to that from Emma Bentley, who asks, what benefits does the new pad have over Pad 1? Is it just a flame trench and other benefits? ? Jack, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, it should be just in general easier to refurbish over Pad A. I think that's a big one, because turnaround time for the Starship program is really important, right? They have to launch these things rapidly in order to do refueling missions and in order to launch enough Starlinks. So I think the number one headline with the new pad is, you know, the flame trench means that they have to do a lot less refurbishment, and that the infrastructure around the pad itself probably takes less of a beating. So I think that would be like the biggest thing. I don't know, Alex, if I'm forgetting anything, by all means, feel free to correct me. I mean, I guess also shorter chopsticks, if that's a really big benefit or not.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of things away from where the booster is roasting things, like at liftoff here at Pad A, they do that pitch over, right? And so it lasts the entirety of the quick disconnect there on the left, you know, sort of above that OLM vent. And so that is going to change for Pad B. There's a lot of simplicity in certain things. For example, there's not going to be the quick disconnects for the Raptors to start up the 20 outer engines on the booster. There's going to be a lot of simplifications, a lot of more reinforcements, a lot of protections compared to Pad A with the water deluge on the top deck,
Right.
apart from the flame trench and things like that. There's just going to
I
be
mean,
a lot of things much better than Pad A.
you got to figure that since they've had a number of launches out of Pad A before they even started building Pad B, they've been able to take everything that they've learned and they've been able to, essentially figure out, oh, where's all the weak points to this thing we built? Let's now build another version without all of those weak points. It's go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done. Sorry.
Oh, I think it's pretty nifty. And that's that iterative development cycle that we see SpaceX doing, not just with their rockets, but they also do it with their launch pads. And I'm sure they do it with their tooling and supply, and it's just all up and down the whole organization. But another thing, you said the Raptor quick disconnects, Alex. I didn't think of that, but you're right. Right now on Pad A, each of the 20 outer Raptor engines has a quick disconnect that is basically is it fair to say it's ripped off as the booster lifts off?
No, it's not ripped off. You're thinking about the chill pipes. We'll talk about that as well. I'm mentioning the ones that are used. It's actually like an actual umbilical that goes to the Raptor, and it injects the high pressure gas that they use for spin up of the pumps, and also it injects high pressure gases, oxygen and gases, methane for the igniters on the Raptor engines. So yeah, but yeah, you might be thinking as well, because there's another thing on Pad A. When they start engine chill, because the Raptor engines uses cryogenic oxygen and cryogenic methane, so it needs to be cooled down to operating temperatures before it's even fired. So they flow a little bit of the methane, a little bit of the oxygen and everything. The methane is recaptured. There's even a port on the quick disconnect there that is specifically about reclaiming that methane, right? But the oxygen, they dump it. And the problem is, you cannot just nilly-willy dump 33 engines worth of oxygen, right? So they have these pipes, these chill lines that they connect to the outer perimeter of the launch ring. Then from those pipes, there's like a manifold on the launch ring that sort of, collects all of that oxygen, and then there's like a pipe going down one of the legs and out to a pond, and so that's where the oxygen eventually goes. But those chill lines, the ones that connect to the engines themselves, those are pretty much expendable, if you will. I don't know if you've seen the slow-mo. I mean, maybe some people in chat might not have seen it, but SpaceX has posted multiple slow-mo videos of the engines igniting during launch, and then there's like some fluffy purple cable or something like that connected to the booster. Those
Right.
are the chill pipes, and they disconnect, and then they are ripped off and sort of burned in the massacre there of all of the fire of the engines, if you will. But that's essentially what you were thinking about.
Right, and when they move to Raptor 3, that's not going to be a thing. And of course,
Yeah.
Pad B
So we
is kind
hope.
of tailor built. Yeah, so we hope. But all of these little optimizations, they all add up, and that is what makes the new pad better than the old one. That's a good question, Emma. I want to thank Ethereal Swordsman. Thank you, Ethereal Swordsman. You're awesome for always coming out and supporting us. It really means the world to us. So here we go, preparing for the first of the final 3 launches from the current Pad A. Super Heavy, the stage that actually works in its current form. Thanks, buddy. Brianna Matthews,
hey, look at that.
giving 5 Red Team memberships. Oh, it's HeckCam. I love HeckCam.
That's apparently it's called Melticam by Dan.
Melticam.
Dan
I
here
love it.
said that they call it Melticam. But yeah,
Yeah, you can see those hoses there, plain as day.
Yep.
And so those are used to chill down the engines because, again, thermal shock is not what you want with high precision machinery, which is exactly why on the right-hand side we're seeing the OLM vent do its thing as they chill down all of the propellant lines that go from the tank farm to the launch mount. In the same way, you want to chill your engines down before you start flowing huge amounts of cryogenic liquid through them because thermal shock is bad. Look at that. That's just the most absurd imagery anybody could ever possibly capture in the year 2025.
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to show me something crazier than that.
You can see across the ring, there's like a bunch of other of these pipes just hanging around.
Just getting roasted.
Exactly. I may or may not have known a certain person that saw one of these pipes like well across the road, like on the other side. Not mentioning names, but yeah. Anyway,
Good deal. Hey, look, moon landing stuff.
This is what I wanted, Jack. I wanted to sort of like not miss this because we were focused on Booster 16, which is my priority to focus on. But I did want to see us get some inserts on how the moon landing is progressing. 48 minutes. Thank you, Carson, for adding that because I think it's important. A lot of people will only be able to stay on one stream. I know a lot of people have got browsers and they can do several, but a lot of people might be on their phones and what have you, so we will keep cutting in. Now I know we can do it because I'll demand it. Oh, yes, please. 48 minutes until moon. Come on, Jack. Why am I doing your things?
I don't know. Why are you? You didn't give me a chance. You got to give me an opening, man. You gotta let the car in front of you zipper merge, buddy. Come on.
Hey, I've got to take this. I've got to take this next one. Phil goes, get Chris a soundboard. Yes, please. Jay, you listening? Get Chris a soundboard. Shame on NSS budget person.
Only danger that way lies in sorrow.
How much are soundboards? They're free, aren't they?
DM me after we're done with the stream. I know a guy named Jack who has a soundboard in other Discords.
Just don't tell Jay or Kevin. Thank you. Right, and it says smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. Shuttle York City L2. Thank you, Phil. Very good. You're like a one-man advertising board. No, I'll take that. I got York City in now. I'm happy. NNNNSSSS is the username. Will the launch be visible from the Wyoming coast? Oh, who put that? Poor Adrian. Adrian made a mistake thinking Wyoming was on the west coast. Which it isn't, and ever since that has stuck, and they're not letting it go. Poor Adrian.
I am nothing but a dumb American, so I am also bad at geography for places that aren't in my immediate vicinity. But that is hilarious. But I mean, you know what? I'll give it to Adrian. Wyoming, West, like they both start with a W. I could see how he would make that mistake, perhaps.
It took me a fair few years in my younger years to understand that Washington wasn't necessarily just about DC. It was actually Washington as in Seattle and places like that on the northwest coast. So it took me a while to learn that one. So it does take a while to learn these things.
Well, welcome to NASA Geography Flight. Today we are in Starbase, Texas. It's a new city. Okay, I'm done. The joke's over.
The funny thing is, we've got Ryan on the other stream. We could have had Mr. Maps on showing us these areas. Never mind. We missed opportunity there. I didn't realise we could do geography tests. But yes, Boost 16. Let's keep on focus.
Good to point out, though, there is that other stream that we are doing for the moon landing. If you have 2 tabs and 2 brains, you could watch both. Or, you could switch back and forth. Also, again, we're going to be cutting that in here and there. What was it? 45 minutes to go. Chris, this is relevant to the Starship program because I think with all of the moon landers that have been sent to the moon in the last couple years through the CLIPS program and from China and other countries, I think the one thing that I personally have learned is that landing on the moon is hard. Like we like to think we're all super advanced and it's 2025, but like landing on the moon and not tipping over turns out actually kind of hard, and that makes me appreciate the Apollo missions that much more. But where I'm going with this in Starship is, I don't know if you've seen the Starship human landing system, Chris.
Yeah.
But it's very tall. And going back to my thesis that landing things on the moon without having them tip over is hard, what say you? Does that concern you at all, that Starship is so monolithic and such a beast in terms of a moon lander? It's not like a little short, squat, wide wheelbase thing.
I might be wrong, but I'm thinking the mass helps it. I'm gonna defer to Alex because even with the Firefly video, we saw that 4-box they put out. I know about the terms now because Kevin Michael read the 4-box that Firefly put out of their Blue Ghost landing. It did bounce a little bit on the actual touchdown. So I mean, even that was probably at some kind of risk of what the others failed to do, which was to stick the landing and stay upright. I'm thinking, Alex, with the amount of mass involved with Starship, with it being tall, I mean, I can't imagine it wobbling too much. Am I completely wrong?
oh, we have some venting there. I think before answering that question, you can see some of venting there from the top coolers sort of behind the launch pad there, to the right of the booster. So we may be perhaps not gonna say 100%, but I think they are loading methane on booster 16.
Oh,
If I were
sweet.
to guess. The full confirmation will be once they start liquid oxygen, because that's a lot easier. It's when the oil vent just disappears. But we'll keep an eye on that, because it could disappear any minute now. So I'm gonna go with that question that you just mentioned. I'm of the thinking that the whole reason why it tipped over, those two Nova Sealanders, it's not because it's tall or anything like that. It's just because the thing just went by. Both times it was landing pretty much with a huge horizontal velocity for what it was designed. You spoke, Jack, about the Apollo lunar landings. Guess what? I think it was Apollo 15 that landed sort of like at slope, because it also landed with a little bit more horizontal velocity, and in fact it crushed one of the nozzle of the descent engine. It was
Right.
crushed when it landed, and it was like the most tipped over landing. It was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 11 degrees or something like that, and the limit was like 13 or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact numbers. Like, don't quote me on this. I think those were sort of the rough numbers, but like that's sort of the thing. If you don't land with the estimated and like the horizontal velocity and vertical velocity that you need to land at, then you don't get there. However, I think SpaceX has been getting really good at landing things and also to testing things. And that oil and vent just stopped, which means liquid oxygen load is underway on booster 16.
Speaking of testing things, one step closer to static fire today, maybe, presumably. I mean, we don't have a overpressure notice or anything, do we? So we assume it's going to be a static fire based on past behavior. Hopefully it is, because we all like to see 33 Raptor engines fire up and the shock waves and all the good stuff.
I'm less kind of like, oh, there's no notice, then there's no notice. That's not a good sign. I'm less like that these days, because we know even before, months ago, we had some tests which had no notice, and
Right.
it static fired. And it was rare at the time. But I'm thinking now, with the way that Starbase has changed and way that there's only Mary and a few people who are local still in Boca Chica Village. The rest are all SpaceX workers. I don't think they really need to notice anymore. I'm saying carefully. But I would still expect a static fire test, just the way that SpaceX have not been doing. Remember pre-burners? Do you remember pre-burner tests? What happened to them? They've gone away.
What booster was it? Which was the booster that did like a million, like I did like a 3-engine and a single engine and pre-burner? Was that booster 7? I
Yep.
think it might have been 7, and then it also exploded, but we don't got to worry about that.
And then it was really
yeah.
hard to explode it in flight.
Yeah, and then it didn't explode when it was supposed to. Oh man, good times.
Was Booster 7 the one that Kevin Shannon is asking about here? What was the last static fire that resulted in a failure or any other anomaly? The caveat there was the fun explosive out of the aft situation wasn't a static fire attempt, was it? It was actually I think that was a pre-burner, yeah, but it went a bit fiery. Yeah. Was that Booster 7?
No, it was a spin prime test, Jack.
Oh, really? It was a spin prime?
Yeah. We even talk about it on the Raptor video, which you recorded.
Buddy, it's been a long couple days.
I know. We joke every single time that we mention that test. We're not going to show that. We're not, and then we show it. So we're going to do that on the Raptor video. Just saying.
There's so much lore around the Booster 7 spin prime detonation. Like, it's why the detonation suppression system exists, that we're going to see fire up right before the deluge starts. It's also the time that there was an actual literal dumpster fire at the at the pad. Like, I think the detonation broke something on the chopsticks, so there was like a hydraulic leak, so they had a dumpster full of hydraulic fluid.
No, but also
then that caught
because
fire.
Yeah, they dumped liquid oxygen. Like after this test, there was a bunch of things that happened, and one of them, there we go. See, a spin prime, and then suddenly caught fire, and boom, there you have the.
R.I.P. White Hose.
Yeah, and the thing is, after this happened, because I think maybe they broke some of the systems to detank the booster. I don't know why it
Look at that
happened. But
shockwave.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why it happened, but they dumped a lot of liquid oxygen. It's in fact in one of those paperwork things from like EPA and whatever, talking about the spills and everything that they've done here, and he mentions they spilled X amount of liquid oxygen this day from the booster because it has like dump ports, so to speak.
Right, that just immediately dumped everything out of it.
Exactly.
To answer the question, Chris, I don't know if it's specific. They're specifically asking about booster, but I mean, of course, with ship 30. Oh God, my brain. 35. With ship 35 and all of its static fires, that certainly seems like there were some anomalies there with the number of engines they seemingly replaced.
Yeah, it's. By the way, I think we've got frost on the chine, Alex.
Yeah,
Oh.
from the CO2. It's at the top right there, sort of where that Starlink terminal is, the one on the right hand side next to the tower. You can
Right.
see a little bit of frost there.
Right, those two tower-facing chines hold a large CO2 tank. Each one has one in it, and that CO2 is used for fire suppression on the booster during ascent. I mean, is it?
Yeah.
I think they also use that CO2 during like a static fire, Alex. I mean, they load it. That's for sure.
Yeah, they also use it. You can see the vents. So you may see a lot of like little dots on the bottom there of the booster. Those are the vents that are used for the CO2 system. We think maybe they won't have these this system with Raptor 3 on Block 3 boosters because there's not going to be any shields in between the engines. The whole purpose of that is, oh, by the way, frost on the liquid oxygen tank there.
Excellent.
It's already starting to appear. The whole purpose is because those engines are installed on the aft end of the booster, right? And then they are enclosed, each one in this sort of shielding and everything. And if you have a leak or anything like that, it can start a fire in that enclosed volume. And so they flush CO2, sort of its own fire extinguisher, to be able to let out that from the engine section. But there we can see that frost on the oxygen tank.
How much do you think we're going to see them load the oxygen tank, Alex, based on what we've seen on previous booster statics?
Yeah, so it should be on the entirety of the liquid oxygen tank. What they do is, even though they run the engines at half the thrust, more or less, they still want to have as much of, mass weighing down on the booster as they can to not stress the hold downs and things like that. And so they're going to be filling up the entirety of the liquid oxygen tank. The methane tank will be filled just like a ring or two, maybe, but not entirely. And that's what we're going to see today if they indeed go for a static fire test. And if they actually do a static fire test, don't be surprised if it happens around the same time as the Hakuto R landing, because right now it's sort of tracking around the same time.
I was just going to ask that. I was literally going to just ask that. I was like, well, okay, we're in loading. Where does that put us on the timeline? And then I was going to compare with the landing time for the moon mission. So we're going to get the same thing at the same time. Oh, this is going to be fun. But there we go. That's the beauty of doing several streams rather than being just like stuck to one stream. Otherwise, that wouldn't be fun, would it? So that's good. I do want to thank some more people. I want to make sure I don't miss people out. I do have a lot of questions as well. Remember, you can ask a question. It does not need to be a super chat. A lot of streams only read out the super chats. We don't. We read out any good question. Doesn't matter if it's your first time here, or if it's just a normal question, or if it's a super chat. Either way, it's a good question. It's a good question. That's how we work it. RC Horseman gifted 5 Red Team memberships. I don't know where I was going to say instead of 5. I think I was going to say rad. What's my brain doing? Brett.
RC Horseman gifting 5 rad team memberships.
Oh, that's what my brain was kind of like going on. Oh, never mind. Brett gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Gene became a Padrat member. Bideford. It's okay, Chris. Let's get Chris B. Whatever he wants, soundboard or anything else. Thank you, Bideford. Let me clip that and send it to Kevin Michael Reed and Kevin and Jay. Kevin Harrington. Just for Chris, Yorkshire. Love all your coverage you can provide. Thank you very much, Kevin. That was very well said. Wyoming Coast is a $10 tip. Turns out you can see the static fire from here. Mike Alpha Tango Sierra, otherwise known as Mats. Hats off to Mats, has gifted 10 Red Team members. Thank you very much for that. It's amazing support. I will come back to the rest of those because I don't want to just reading those out all the time. Otherwise, we've got things to cover here, you see, as well. But we do very much appreciate it. I've got a question about underneath the vehicle from Zara. I butcher your name, so I'm not going to read it out. How do you think the dance floor is for Pad B going to be removed? Won't the flame trench thing be in the way when getting it under the pad? Question mark. Dance floor, Pad B.
The answer is it's not going to be the same sort of setup as Pad A. They'll surely have some sort of work platform that they can extend and retract or install and remove, but I'm sure part of how Pad B is built means they can't use the standard Pad A dance floor. It's kind of like tailor built, and also part of it is I assume I'm guessing here that they've built in access into the structure itself versus needing the dance floor. I mean, that gantry structure is huge, but I'm not sure. Like maybe because there is, Alex, isn't there like some sort of work platform that they can extend and then remove for static fires at the Massey ship static fire stand?
Yeah, so I was actually going to mention that, a flame trench is not at all any sort of impediment to have a work platform, a dance floor platform or whatever. They in fact have that for Falcon 9 on LC-39A, Slick 40, and Slick 4 East at Vandenberg. They have that. It's just removable, right? Like you just pull it apart and you have it there. They have that at McGregor as well for all of the Raptor test stands with flame trenches. At Raptor South, at the Raptor Vertical stand, they have that. They also have that at the booster stand for Falcon 9 boosters. And there's always there a flame trench. And it's also, as you said, Jack, at the Massey outpost for the ship static fire stand. So just because it is there, like there's a flame trench in the way, doesn't mean that you cannot put something like that. I don't know. I'm personally gonna be saying here that I have no idea how it'll look like. I'm not even sure we've seen how it'll look like. But I'm mostly sure there's gonna be something like that at some point because you gotta access the launch mount. So, like not even the booster itself, just the launch mount, the interior of the launch ring, needs to be accessible.
Alex, Enrique X, that's a great username by the way, asks what booster version will have 35 engines instead of 33? Because we saw the Elon presentation about the moon, and that involved a lot of attention on the way they're going to go to 42 engines, which is 9 engines on ship. Are we going to still get 35 on the booster?
It doesn't look like that. We're just gonna get 33 all the way. He was joking also, like on the ship they will be increasing potentially in the future to 9 engines, so 33 plus 9, 44, 42, and so it was like there you go, 42 engines. The answer to all of the whatever. It's this thing about the
What's it from? What's it from?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, was it?
Yes.
Good job.
Okay.
Good job, Alex. I forgive you for not having seen any Stanley Kubrick films.
Hey, look. and I was going to say 44 because 32, excuse me, not 35 plus 9 was going to be 44. So I was going to say, I was arguing here that if they wanted to have 42 with a 9-engine static ship, right, then they will have to keep the booster at 33, so they cannot put 35 if they wanted to. No, I haven't watched it, Phil. I saw your comment. No, I haven't watched it, but I know the reference.
Alex, 42 is the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah,
calculated by the supercomputer Deep Thought.
Exactly.
It's the answer, Chris, but we don't know what the question is.
Yes.
Well, if you don't know the question, I'll watch iRobot. Anyways.
Wow, good job.
See, I know my culture.
You are.
Sorry, Jack, I've got to stop. Right. Did Alex just cite iRobot, the movie iRobot, as a point of culture?
He did, but at least he's like seen a movie. Like I'll give him
Yeah.
credit for that. Also,
I've
I'm
seen
pretty
lots
sure
of
iRobot.
movies.
I'm pretty sure iRobot was like a Kubrick film originally, and then he died, so someone else took it over, so they kind of ruined it. But like, half points. Alex gets a C+.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know very well what I'm seeing and whatnot.
You know what doesn't get a C+ though? This booster. It's looking so good. I mean, not just the frost, but having seen it roll out and having seen it at the pad, it is a very nice looking booster. It still blows me away how every time they roll out a new ship or new booster, it always just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper, a little bit better. And Booster 16 is no exception. And speaking of looking good, I just want to really quickly shout out Rocket Ranch because they are allowing Dee and myself to be here at their outpost viewing location. That's a feed from Dee that you can see right there, or it might be a feed from our outpost camera. Either way, that is the view from the outpost, and you can have that same view as well for launch. So hit up Rocket Ranch. They, I think, already have their pre-sales open for the next flight. And, of course, you get it on the pre-sale and it's cheaper. But either way, Rocket Ranch is awesome. They are a great place to stay, and they're a great place to watch launches. Just wanted to point that out. Also, Dee's out here. I don't know if we mentioned that on stream or not yet. Dee is diligently working and has been. I don't know that they slept. So the team on site is doing the best we can to bring you guys the best views, so thank you.
I'm sorry,
I had to do it.
That's okay. I have a question I want to get out of the way, because I don't want to be talking about this while we're about to static fire. We are a bit off the static fire just yet, so we can address this now. Cooper Foster asks, what is your personal failure analysis for Flight 9 on booster and or ship? I will start by saying I don't think the booster really failed. It was put through the rigmaroles of a sporty return, so I was not too surprised it lost the booster. As far as the ship goes, I'm thinking, especially with the optimism on the launch date, that it was something minor, like maybe a valve or something, which basically let go, and that's why they'd leak it, and that's why they couldn't have attitude control, and that's why they lost control authority, and that's why they lost the vehicle. That's my personal thought, that it was something minor in that respect, and that is why they're proceeding with Flight 10 at some pace. Alex, what's your thoughts?
Hang on, because it's a lot. So the booster and the ship and everything, like what's our thoughts on their flights and everything? Because that was a lot from you. Sorry.
Yeah, basically, what went wrong with Flight 9? How about that? That's an easier question for you.
Well, as you mentioned, the booster got through its phases, right, on that return. So it could be related to that. That landing burn happened after a really rough entry profile, right? That they hadn't tried at the time. And then for the ship, well, it seems like it just lost attitude control after Seco. I wouldn't be surprised if it were something like a stock valve somewhere that started leaking things on the tank and everything. They said that it was a loss of tank pressure, and they used the vents on the tanks to be able to control the attitude. So if you lose pressure, you lose your attitude control. And so, yeah, I'm gonna guess it's probably gonna be something like that. Obviously, we don't know any actual official details about that. That's my honest guess. Because if you bet about valves, it's that they are probably going to be stuck or something like that, because valves tends to do that. So
that's another thing I've learned over the last few years. Valves are really, really hard to do right, especially when it comes to spaceflight and cryogenic liquids.
Yep.
Did you know?
Go ahead.
I've got a shuttle story to mention.
Shuttle. Yes. I knew it. I could feel it. I could feel it in my bones that we were about to get a shuttle story.
I did have someone ask, first of all, when is the next shuttle Sunday? It's this Sunday, all being well, providing there's not some Starlink in the way. You never know with these Starlinks. The shuttle story is there was a poppet, a small part of a poppet on a valve in the flow control valve system, fuel control valve system inside the MPS, which is the main propulsion system inside Endeavour, that deliberated during launch and fired itself all the way up through the pipe system into the MPS. If it had ruptured one of the lines on the way, they'd have lost a vehicle on scent. It was one of those stories they never actually came out with, but it was something they're saying, well, hang on a minute, we need to inspect all the poppets now on all the vehicles. That's how valves can be really risky. There's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of valves on the main propulsion system of the Spatial Orbiter, and it was one poppet on one valve that liberated and shot like a bullet through the MPS, but did not cause any damage. Thank you. That's your shuttle corner for today. Moving quickly on.
I feel like when you get your soundboard, we need like a shuttle corner chime. Like when you're done, you can press it and it'll be like bing, bing, bing.
Yeah. See, I get Jack, you're just backing me up on this, that I need a soundboard.
Oh no. Oh no. What have I done?
Again, another clip. I can just clip that and say to Jay and Kevin, look, we've had super chats even about this. And also, Jack was on the stream saying, you know what, if we gave you a soundboard, we could do a Shuttle Sunday corner chime. And basically, I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. Anyway.
Yeah, let's continue. We're getting closer and closer to a potential static fire. Alex, when were you guessing earlier, timing-wise? Somewhere in the 2 o'clock area, 2:15, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I originally was thinking sort of around 2:20. Right now, it seems like, I mean, that booster liquid oxygen tank is roughly half, perhaps 40%, if anything, right? This is one of the neat things of not having, all of those spray-on foam insulation like the shuttle had or like the SLS has on its core stage, which is, you can see the frost rising, and so you can sort of guess what's the status of the fill of the tank. And so right now we are sort of around halfway through. I will say, around 210, 220. So, at the beginning of the propellant load, I said, between 2 and 220. Now I'm sort of shrinking that down to 210, 220, somewhere in between that, based on when things have started.
Remind me, Alex, will they completely fully load the vehicle for this?
The liquid oxygen tank will be fully loaded. The methane tank, though, I'm not sure it'll get any more than that. Previous static fires have been just a few rings. You can see there it's like 2 or 3 rings, maybe. Oh, hey, you can see now where we have on the ticker Starbase, Texas, there's like a vent up there. That's engine chill. So static fire test should be around 20 minutes from now.
Excellent.
Because they always do the static the engine chill is usually like T-minus 19 minutes and 40 seconds. It just came up. So that is our clue that they're chilling down the Raptor engines.
And remind me, Alex, and remind people in chat as well, they're only going to fire the engines for about 6 seconds. They don't need all this propellant. They don't need it all. Why do they fill so much into the vehicle?
To weigh it down. So essentially, it's this thing can hold many tons of liquid oxygen, upwards of.
Are you doing the car salesman meme? Like slaps hood, this puppy can hold so many tons of liquid oxygen?
But yeah, it's roughly 3,400, I think, 3,500 tons of liquid oxygen. So that goes a long way to weigh this down. And then the methane side is like 1,000, more or less, 900, 1,000 tons there. But they don't fully load it because they don't need entirety of the. And also, it's very dangerous, right, to have a fully fueled, because it's the fuel, the methane, that is the one that burns, right? The oxygen, if for whatever reason they have like a spill or anything, well, it might burn all the things at the pad, but it will not burn itself. If you can imagine, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's the thing that burns things, not the other way around.
But why do they need the ballast weight in the booster, Alex? Doesn't the pad have hold-down clamps?
Yeah, for static fires, they actually sort of keep them further closed. So they have this sort of I don't remember the name. It's like this sort of blocking system that they have on those clamps to sort of further reinforce that. But they don't want to stress those clamps, right? They are not meant to hold down the booster when it's time for launch. The clamps actually open way earlier before the engines ignite, like minutes and minutes and minutes, sort of around 20 to 30 minutes before the launch. So those clamps open and never hold down the booster or the full rocket itself, right?
Right.
So yeah, they're not meant to hold down the. I mean, we call them hold down clamps, but it's just there more like to keep it in place while the booster is not loaded. Once it's loaded with its own propellant and everything, that keeps it way down onto those pedestals, because the clamps sort of come up around the sort of bottom of the booster, the bottom ring, but it's sitting on some pedestals where those clamps are located. So if you open the clamp, the booster will not go through the launch ring or anything. It's still sitting down on those pedestals.
Jack, Jason,
Turn
Alexander.
buckles. Thank you, Gus, by the way.
Has Alex stopped? There he is, stopped. Jack, do you remember when we used to do the early days of testing where they were doing a static fire test, and any kind of like overpressure related test? The good man from the Brownsville Deputy Department, Police Department, would run around in his car, blaring his siren with 10 minutes to go before. Did they even do that anymore?
I mean, I don't want to say like emphatically one way or the other because I'm not always in the village. In fact, I'm almost never in the village for testing. So, but I don't think so. I mean, I haven't heard it in a long time. I haven't heard reports of it in a long time. I mean, it's only been what 5-6 years, Chris, but so much has changed. I mean, remember the SpaceX fire truck? When's the last time we saw that?
Yeah, I remember that.
When's the last time we saw the two robot dogs? Although I suspect sooner or later we'll see some Optimus Tesla robots around. Maybe the fact Tesla's making humanoid robots has something to do with them not having Boston Dynamics hardware around anymore. Maybe not. But all kinds of things, right? Like we've seen entire eras of Starbase sort of come and go in terms of things we learn to count on or depend on or expect. And then times change. The stupid arrow of time.
More thanks, by the way. By the way, Jack, have they actually got rid of that fire truck? I remember when it was back in the early days of the Mid-Bay being the biggest building at the production site, but they got this old fire truck and repurposed it for Starbase. There's been no sign of it recently?
I mean, I can't tell you the last time I saw it. I think the last time I would have seen it is still in the days of tents, like still back in the tent era. And even then, it's been years. Maybe it's still sitting around somewhere and I just don't know about it, but I couldn't tell you where it is or how long it's been gone, if it is gone.
Very good. Mr. Gamer, thank you. You just got paid. Cheesecake time. Thank you very much. Alan C. gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Jeff Roybert, that's the command in chat, has gifted a Red Team member. And we've also got Clearly Random with became Pad member. And Phil's back again with 5 Red Team memberships. That's great. That is awesome. Very much appreciated. But also, if you did get a free Red Team membership out of those people who've gifted one, please say thank you in chat. It will have come up in chat saying who it came from. So it is very much appreciated if you just say thank you to them because you've got a month for free and a month where we might see a launch because the question, I'm going to round 15 questions into one here. Launch in 3 weeks, question mark, Alex.
Perhaps.
Jack.
Maybe
launch in
4, we'll see.
Alex, you nearly got the shortest Alex answer in the history of answers then.
I was like, is he going to limit himself to just perhaps? Is he going to be that bold and just no sell Chris? But then you had.
No. Jack,
Go
3
ahead.
weeks. Is it possible?
3 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. Just look at what they're doing right now. They are getting ready to static fire this booster. They very clearly want to up their cadence, and they want to get through the teething problems with version 2 of the ship. So, absolutely, it's. It seems like this is we're only going to see a cadence ramp here. I do want to take a moment. We always like to thank people for their support and everything, and we really can't do any of this without y'all's support. we're not a huge company. We're just a group of people who like rockets. And one of the ways you can support us, in fact, perhaps the most important way you can support us along with the member program, is the store. And of course, we have prints, both in metal and paper form, and Father's Day is coming up. So, if you have a dad that likes rockets or that watches NSF, maybe consider getting them a print, because also, not only are you supporting NSF, not only getting something in return, but also you're supporting the photographer who shot the image. So that's really cool, because a cut of the sale goes back to the photographer whose image it is. You can even go in the store and filter by individual photographers. You can filter by rockets. It's pretty nifty. So yeah, that's just, want to shout that out. Father's Day is coming up. Don't get your dad something lame. Get him something cool. And we appreciate it, because the stores, we could not do what we do without the store. I'll put it that way.
I've got to say, a lot of people on Father's Day, and I've got enough friends who do the same thing. They'll either get a gift voucher or some socks or something, like a bottle or something, whatever. It's kind of like, yeah, cool, I like it, but it's kind of not. There's no thought in it. There's no thought in it. Now, if you know your father is a rocket fan, that's going to go down very well. I mean, that is going to. I mean, there's no. I'm not even selling this. It's true. That is going to go down really well. So that's one way of thinking about it if you're considering it. And of course, you do help us as well, and you're helping yourself because you've been a father's good books, which is never a bad thing, is it? Are we getting close to 10 minutes to test potentially, Alex? 10 minutes?
Yeah, around that, we are pretty much 75%. You can see there that booster liquid oxygen tank. Would you say it's sort of like 2/3, 3/4 of the way, right? It kind of looks like that, if my eye doesn't deceive me. So we're very much within 10 minutes of that static fire test, perhaps.
Very good. I am going to quickly put a post on the Everything app saying that, and saying, don't blame me, blame Alex. He came up. No, we're joking. Potentially 10 minutes.
Yeah, worth pointing out though, they can always hold, right? They have these hold point at T-minus 40 seconds. We'll know if they have gone through that because there's multiple things that we'll see once we get close to the static fire test. So there's one more. So the first very subtle thing that happens is they vent down. They sort of depressurize a bunch of the systems on the both. They pressurize a bunch of things, also depressurize other things. So they vent down some of the interfaces on the quick disconnect of the booster, but also they pressurize the systems for Raptor ignition. I mentioned before, earlier in the stream, they have these quick disconnects, right, for the Raptor engines on the outer ring of 20 engines. And so all of those are high pressure systems that they use, so those get pressurized at the T-minus 40 second mark. There's going to be a vent coming off from the OLM vent. From the OLM, it's not going to be the OLM vent. It's just going to be a different one. It's going to be very subtle and very quick. It's just going to be like whoosh, so to speak, right? And you're going to hear that. And if you hear that, we're 40 seconds from a test. But if you're not being around before, you're probably not going to recognize that. So I'll yell vent or something like that if we are there. If we don't recognize that, not actually yell, but you know what I mean. If we don't recognize that, there's still more things. So at T-minus 25 seconds, the detonation suppression system activates. That's sort of like this spraying of water and nitrogen under the launch mount to sort of disperse some of the methane that is under the engines and some of that oxygen under the engines. And then at T-minus 10 seconds, the water deluge will sort of pop out. We'll see this sort of swoosh, sort of this vent and jet of water coming out from some of the pipes on the water deluge system, and then the water will come out from the bottom of the OLM. So that'll be the few things that will happen very quickly. I mean, 40 seconds, right? It's once it happens, you blink, you miss. So yeah, we'll see. That's gonna be our next indicator. Also, I guess before that though, wrapping up liquid oxygen load and things like that, right? The propellant load needs to finish. We'll see the OLM vent coming back. That's gonna be around 2 to 3 minutes before the test. So, but if they hold, then it's gonna be a little bit longer.
How are we doing the moon landing? How are we doing the moon landing?
I don't know.
What if we can pop over and just see what their T-minus is to landing? and then we'll get a good indication of potentially how aligned this may be with the static fire test. Okay, so they're 9 minutes and 30 seconds away from landing. Oh, this is going to be close.
I can recognize that graphic. That looks like a Ryan graphic, of course. Mr. Map on the moon.
Of course, it's a Ryan graphic because it's the font he likes. Ryan is very careful about fonts that he chooses because Ryan is that kind of person. There we go. I want to ask a question while we're talking about the booster because this is relevant to the booster, and that is about the grid fins because we saw on Elon presentation that the change of design will see it result in 3 grid fins in a T-shape. So the question is, how do you guys feel about the V3 boosters having 3 grid fins in a T-shape? Jack first.
I think Jack is not going to be
No,
around.
maybe not. Then let's go to Alex.
I'll do that.
I hate it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's gonna look. I think it's gonna look hideous. I don't like it, but hey, it's what works, right? It's simpler and more functional. All this stuff. So yeah, let them have it.
Yeah, I believe Jack, as the professional photographer he is, has cameras involved with this to capture some of the other. We have live cameras. The live cameras are great, but we also have like standalone cameras that are for the professional photography and what have you, and all the things I don't understand. And Jack has his cameras out there involved in that, so Jack will be making sure they're all shipshape and ready for watching potentially 33 Raptor engines firing up at Pad A, which is never a boring event. It's always fun to watch. The vehicle looks pretty much there now as far as prop loading, Alex. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, we should be just a few minutes. There we go. We should be just a few minutes from seeing that oil vent back, and that'll be our clue that propellant load has finished. The methane tank is pretty much where it should be for a static fire test. So that has probably wrapped up or about to be wrapping up very soon. I'm looking at all our feeds and everything, trying to make sure that everything is good to go. Yeah, that tank pretty much looks like it's 90%. Just a couple more minutes to fill up the little bit left there at the liquid oxygen tank.
I do want to mention this is a good little segue from what Alex was just mentioning about the other feeds. If you're any member level, doesn't matter what member level you are, any member level, you will notice that there's an actual multi-screen running, which is what we look at behind the scenes, but you get to see it as well now as a member. And that will show you all the camera views we've got going. So you can literally act like a Kevin Michael Reid, be a producer in the background and have your own screens there. So that is a cool little tip there, because I know sometimes when we do static fire coverages, we have these views and we're providing a live view. We will not stick on one view because that's just silly, but we'll do replays where we can do that. What we'll do is we'll do like a close further out and we'll have you. Sometimes the timing's off, but it's a live thing, and you never know what the actual exhaust is going to do as far as obscuring things. So it's always hit and miss sometimes with the live cameras. But you'll have the 4K, 4K because they're actually all condensed together, multi-view in the member stream, and then we'll do replays afterwards as well. So the live view you'll get, and then you'll get replays as well. So you get all the views you could possibly need. It's impossible to do it all at the same time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and also, Chris, you were saying about the plume and the dust and everything. This thing gets very visual, if you will, right? Like there's a lot of vapor, there's a lot of dust, and so some of the close-up cameras will see the engines ignite, right, and then get covered in it's just going to be dust everywhere, right? And so if you want to show the static fire, you kind of have to change from one view to the other. But as you mentioned, we're going to have replays right after that test happens. So we'll be able to look at it with all sorts of detail afterwards.
Yeah, I remember we had one view which we completely expected to get obscured by the plume, and it never did. It was like it was incredible placement just by chance, and people were saying, you should have stayed on that view. We had no idea it was going to be that good. So that's why we were sticking through. It's literally because of that, but they were completely right to say it. I agree as well, but luckily we had to replay, so we could show the replay later anyway of that camera as a single view. That's the way we'll do it. We'll play it that way as best we can. The worst thing you can do is stick on a single view, hoping it'll be the great view all the way through, and it's just covered in plume. You see nothing.
You seen that, Chris? Look at the OLM.
Oh,
The OLM vent is
talk
back.
about it, Alex. Talk about it.
Yeah, so that means propellant load has finished now with that liquid oxygen load having wrapped up on the booster. Methane load, as I said before, it was pretty much already down by a few minutes ago. And so that is our clue that we are potentially under 3 minutes to that static fire test, maybe 2:15 or so. So we'll see, just a couple of minutes here for the test. Got to be watching for all the little signs at the end of the count.
Yeah, this is where we'll all be a bit quieter. Alex obviously will have information, so Alex keeps talking, and that's completely fine, because Alex will bring you information related to what we're seeing here. And it is getting closer and closer. What's the first thing we'll see from underneath the vehicle on the orbital launch mount? Is it the DSS?
Yeah, a little bit earlier, as I said before, it's a little bit more subtle. So if you don't pay too much attention, or if you've not seen it before, it's going to be hard. But it's going to be like a little vent from venting out some of the stuff on the OLM and also pressurizing other systems. And so that vent occurs right at the T-minus 40-second mark, right? And then at T-minus 25 seconds, that'll be the DSS, the detonation suppression system. It's going to be like a mist of water and nitrogen under the launch mount, and then the water deluge at T-minus 10 seconds. So once we see all that, we're going to get quiet and enjoy the show. So, heart rate going up now.
I'm not going to take any more questions for now. We'll come back to questions after the event itself. I think the main thing now is for us to focus on what we're watching, which is the potential within a few minutes static fire test of booster 16. This is a new booster, a new booster, and I can say that now because we've free-flown boosters, which is a crazy thing already, I would say. And this is for Flight 10. If this all goes well, it'll eventually go back to the production site. Alex, interrupt me if you see anything. It'll go back to the production site. We're going to expect ship 36 to head to Masses for its static fire test. Hopefully that all goes well. It'll return to the production site, and then it's a case of watching for road closures to the launch site again, where they'll stack the vehicle. This is where we are now. They'll stack the vehicle, and we're looking for a launch date for Flight 10, which will be a credible increase in cadence, which is exactly what SpaceX wants to do. They need to do this. This is what the vehicle's about: rapid reuse and rapid launch. We're not going to get the rapid reuse yet, but we're going to get the rapid launch. We've had a reuse of the booster, but again, that is baby steps, and they're still learning. Oh, I've been very careful not to get too long-winded there, because there's a vent return, Alex.
I don't like the sound of that.
What would that normally indicate, Alex?
Boy, yeah.
Words.
I'm trying to think, because it's not meant to vent that long. But I don't want to say anything. It might be holding. Let's put it that way. Because right now the time has passed when it should have happened, that test. And I've not seen either that vent on the side of the OLM nor the detonation suppression system. And that long vent was a little bit off-putting, to put it in a word there.
Maybe they're just watching the moon landing and thought, hang on, we'll come back to this in a bit. You never know. We're going to focus on this. I think this is only fair now that we continue to keep our complete attention on the live event of Booster 16. We do have the other stream if people want to watch the moon landing, but again, we're focusing on this stream on Booster 16. I'm not sure if we're going to get a depress vent. That would be the real indication they're not going for the static fire attempt this time round, if we get the big depress on the actual tankage higher up. This vent here is not a depress, Alex. I'm trying to phrase this. It's more of a hold than a kind of scrub, because people in chat are automatically saying scrub, but that's just what people do in chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to assess here based on the things that we know from previous tests and everything, because we see there the Pope vent coming back, the one next to the grass on the right. Doesn't look good. Yeah. And then we had that venting from before, which could indicate that was maybe a depressed vent. I will say for now, at the very least, it's probably a hold. But if we see signs of detanking, such as defrosting and things like that, that could be an indicator.
Did the
of,
moon landing go wrong?
That's also apparently happening as well. That it doesn't look nominal as well.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So
The moon. We said it earlier. The moon is hard. Only Firefly's pulled it off with the Blue Ghost. Yeah, well, Nova's all fallen over. It's not easy. And we're all finding this out, not just American commercial landers, but also overseas landers as well. So that is the challenge they have. But luckily, every time this happens, I will say it's a lesson learned. They'll all be learning how to make it better. So I never feel too bad about it. The last final leg is the hardest, actually getting down on the moon. Anyway, booster 16 still venting. I've not got my volume up on the actual vents because I'll get deafened by it on my PC, but we've not heard a depress vent, have we, Alex?
that's what I was thinking, that when we heard that long vent on the booster, that could have been a depress vent. And so that's why I said it was a bit off-putting, because that could have been a depress, and sort of the kind of let's hold and abort. So I don't know. We'll wait and see, but it doesn't look good. Let's put it that way. It's a bit like the moon landing from iSpace. Yeah.
So I'm laughing at something else, not you, Alex. I just refreshed my X feed to see if there was like anything on the moon landing, and I came across some tweets that probably I will definitely not read out on air. It's all kicking off.
Let's not go there either.
No, let's not.
Let's not go there.
But yeah. So, has it stopped again, Alex? Or am I just getting a different angle?
Stop what, the OLM vent?
Yeah.
Well, stopping the OLM vent, it might actually be a bad sign, because I was mentioning before that they chill down the lines, the liquid oxygen, right? And they have this vent. That vent, it is there when they don't load anything, but it is not there when they load things on the booster. Now, to drain the booster of propellant, the propellant goes the same way. It just goes the same pipe back to the tank farm. And in order for it to do that, the OLM vent needs to be closed. Because otherwise, if it's open, the liquid oxygen will just be dumped through the OLM vent because it's connected to that pipe. So the OLM vent not being there might actually be a bad omen, if you will, in a potential indication that maybe they are draining back the liquid oxygen. So, yeah.
That'll be an indication we'll be able to see as well if we start seeing the actual frost line receding somewhat. That would be an obvious detanking indication, and then we'll have to see what they're going to try again, which is unfortunate, but it's best to be safe than sorry. If they're not happy with the vehicle ahead of a static fire test, it's best to stop and recycle. I wonder if we can... it still looks pretty good to me, but it will take a while before it starts receding, won't it? It's not going to immediately start melting off.
Yeah, unlike the loading of the booster, right? To load it, they do that very quickly. For draining, it takes a little bit more time. It has to do with, when you drain back the propellants, you create more empty space above the propellants, right? And so you need to let it, because if you create a lot of empty space, then it sort of depresses it, the pressure goes down, and you may end up with a crunchy booster, essentially. So you don't want that. So that's why the draining is a little bit slower. That's essentially why there's not an option to fill back the tanks of the booster quickly, essentially, with some gas, with some pressurization gas. And so that's why it takes a little bit longer.
Yep, I'll tell you what we'll do while we're watching and waiting and seeing, and do interrupt me at any point you see a change, Alex, as you normally do, which I appreciate because I will miss it otherwise. We're going to take a few more questions. First of all, some thanks. ODST Moody, SpaceX and iSpace both fighting for my attention right now. Lunar landed in 10 minutes. That was 14 minutes ago. Unfortunately, it didn't go well. So, yes, I'm waiting for someone to clip it from our stream, and then we can just put it on the X feed. Because I'm quite busy right now, as you may imagine, with Booster 16. And then said Booster 14.
You said
Booster
Booster 16.
I said Booster Boys to Booster. That's what I said.
Chris, go do your thing. I can get the panel up
thank
here.
you, Jack. Yes.
I'm back. I had to run away to do camera things, but then the booster didn't static fire, as we all know. So I'm back. Give me just a second to bring up the panel here.
Yes, Jack. We're talking about Beaster 16.
Now I want some Peeps and like Easter candy. Do you guys have Peeps over there on Easter, or do you have like some weird, I don't know, tea or something?
What do you mean, some weird tea or something?
I'm just. It's the laziest way I can poke at you. It's
we have
literally
chocolate eggs for Easter, which
Oh,
are
you have the
basically
Cadbury eggs. That's right.
Yes. Well, but the bigger ones, not necessarily the Cadbury eggs that you get all year round. Big, large, hand-size shells of chocolate, milk chocolate, in an egg form. That's what we get.
You know that there's been a static fire abort when we start talking about food.
Yeah, I know, unfortunately. Right, anyway, I'm going to do that tweet.
Yeah, go do the tweet. I am hanging out. Alex, we're hanging out. So I was doing camera things. What? Did we think the moon lander went not good?
I was sort of scrubbing back, obviously with no audio, so I don't have the full information. But it looks like sort of the telemetry was lost and stopped at some point, and then yeah, like not even just that. Like it was very close to the surface with a high speed, essentially. And the last reading, it was, no kilometers per hour, but the altitude was like minus some meters. Yeah, minus 223 meters. And so, yeah, they're doing the replay on the dedicated stream of what happened.
Man, Alex, like your opinion as a spaceflight follower, is it just that landing on the moon is really hard, and we've been sort of I maybe have been underestimating how much of a technical challenge it is, or perhaps is it just that landing on the moon is hard for non-government actors with like a small cheap lander kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just that, when you don't have a lot of resources and you have to sort of scramble around some tiny lander and things like that with a tiny team and all that. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not professionals and things like that, but of course, the more resources, the more talented groups that you have around you, the more chances that, you're going to get it right. But even way back in the 60s, it took a bunch of tries. And also back in the 60s, they also tried a little bit more brute force. We're trying to do these a little bit more sophisticated with, vision, terrain navigation and stuff like that. Like they didn't have that with the robotic landers on the 60s and 70s, right? They sort of brute forced a bunch of these things with radar and whatnot. And they, most of the time, they didn't even go to the moon with multiple orbits around the moon and super efficient transfer orbits and stuff like that. They just, especially I'm thinking sort of the robotic landers, of course, not Apollo landers. And when Apollo came around, they had also all of those systems plus 4 eyes in that lunar lander, right? And so those two people there being able to coordinate between each other and things like that. And so, and I'm seeing people complaining that these landers are too tall or whatever. The Hakuto R lander is not tall. It's actually very short. It's very stubby, if you will. And a bunch of the landers that have crashed in the last 10, 15 years have been like that. They just weren't good for it. Like they were just not, like they failed at some point. Like the first Hakuto R was trying to land, so to speak, like 5,000 meters from the lunar surface, from the actual lunar surface, because its software thought that it was actually close to the lunar surface, and it, quote unquote, landed on the moon, but 5,000 meters above. It ran out of propellant, and then it just crashed. It just fell those 5,000 meters down to the ground. but the software thought that it was landing on the moon because it thought that the surface was 5,000 meters higher. And so it's like, look, it's just down to that. It's not that it's taller or shorter or whatever. Sometimes it's just that, you don't have all the time to do all your software preparations. You don't have all of the resources to,
Do all the testing that you might want to
Exactly.
do. All the simulation. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to keep throwing harebrained theories at you, though, Alex, because, I mean, it's me. I also just, maybe in a not, maybe I'm wrong, but I just sort of feel like all of this is changing my perception of the Apollo moon landings a little bit. Just a little bit. Like, wow. We did stop doing them, and I have always been like, oh man, we should have kept going to the moon. Maybe if Apollo hadn't ended when it did, things wouldn't have continued to have been, so flawless, Apollo 13 and 1 notwithstanding.
Yeah.
Anyway, the frost line's going down. So, detanking. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Carson, you put my
Detaining.
exact...
Detaining.
It's not... Carson, can we change the ticker? It's the capitals exist, and I'm not talking about cities.
Oh, that's the best thing ever. So I posted a suggested text for the ticker in the Discord, and I was also trying to be a good friend and host and listen to what you were saying, Alex. So I hastily forgot the K
Yeah.
in detank, and then Carson copy and pasted it. That's amazing. Johnny Cakes, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. At Capcom level and above, you get Discord access. That means you get access to the pre-show and post-show for the Flame Trench. And you also get access to all the other awesome channels that are in the Discord and a whole bunch of member content. So thank you for that. We absolutely depend on our members. And the Capcom level is kind of like, it's like the level where you get all this, just where you get Discord. The Discord's really cool, I'll put it that way. Deep Pascal 7, becoming a PadRat member, and Michael Elgert. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name. I apologize if I am, and I also apologize to Carson. Just giving you a hard time, buddy. Here's a question from Killian while we wait to see what's going on with the Boosterino here. How's the orbital refueling supposed to work when they can only launch at most twice a day and the pad crosses the orbiting while the pad crosses the orbiting ship's orbit? Buddy, I think the answer is more than one pad. Lots of pads, in fact.
And they don't need to launch that often. Like, they have a propellant station, the depot essentially up there in space, and so that's gonna be the one holding the fuel. And then at the end of the day, you just gotta launch the final ship, and that's gonna be refilled entirely.
There's so many fun milestones that we get to see come down the pipe, and orbital refueling, refilling, whatever you want to call it, whenever we get to that point,
Wow.
it's going to be something special.
Are you looking at that ice on the
Falling off?
methane tank? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Continue. Sorry, I just needed to say that.
No, you're good. I'm really curious if when there's a Starship in orbit, how visible it'll be. Because the ISS is visible, right? And Starship's big and shiny. Well, at least half of it is. And when there's two Starships in low Earth orbit doing fueling ops, presumably there's going to be some venting. Presumably, if you're in the right place on the surface of the Earth and it's nighttime and that goes over you, it's going to look wild. I'm excited for that. But,
We'll
largely
see.
speculation. What we will also see is what is happening with the booster. Alex, if they do try and go for a recycle today, they have the road closure till what, 7 p.m. Central? Do they have enough time to sort of get all the propellant out and start over, try again?
In theory, yes, but they will also need to figure out how to solve whatever prompted this abort, right? Because obviously aborts don't happen just out of the blue. Like, oh, wait, we'll watch the lunar landing, right? Like there were people joking about that in chat. Like, let's abort, let's watch the lunar landing. If that were to be the case, sure, you can just try again right after. But if it's an issue where, for example, they need to go to the pad or something like that, we'll have to wait and see, right? I wouldn't say straight away that they are not able to try again today, but oftentimes that's what happens, right? Because they need to sort of get that issue sorted. And then we can
So it
see
goes.
if for whatever reason, so there you have beach access status there. Boca Chica Beach is closed 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If for whatever reason they don't try again today in this window, there's another window, same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central for June 6th on Friday tomorrow. Now, that will mean we'll be very, very busy tomorrow as well because we also have the flame trench and everything. So it's going to be really interesting.
Whee!
And
Always
yeah.
a hoot. Always a hoot trying to cover things in spaceflight. There's got to be some law. Like there's Berger's law. Like we got to come up with. I don't know who we're gonna name it after. Maybe Bergen's law, where
No.
if two no. If two things if two spaceflight activities have a chance of conflicting, they will. I submit that we should make that a thing because it's held true so many times. Austin Skirvin, thanks for the $5 super and the kind words. They say I'm kilting it.
Tell you what, Alex, you mentioned about the frost falling off. Look at the pretty patterns that have been forming on the tank there, where it's just starting to melt off. It is quite, actually, I've not seen it this visually nice before.
It is a really nice day, and it's a nice clear day at that. So, like, there's a standard heat haze and distortion, Chris, but it's very pretty.
Jack, you know how we had the slow-mo, I think it was slow-mo, right? The Sparks video with the music and everything. We need
want
something like
frost?
that with a frost.
I was
Frost video.
literally just thinking that. Like, it would be really nice to be able to be close to this thing when it's fully fueled like that and be able to get shots of it. I know in the past we've had the positioner set up and been able to do stuff like that. And
Just saying.
You can get some really beautiful, like, look at the little flakes and then they come out of the shade and hit the sunlight, and we could totally do 20 minutes of frost. The problem is, I don't know if people know we put out that Sparks video because it didn't exactly do well, but we put it out because we thought it was cool, so we did it. But if you want to watch 20 minutes of Sparks to lo-fi hip hop music to relax and chill to, we have that on our channel. Even just the vapor, like when the wind.
Oh, did we lose Jack?
Did we lose Jack? Hey, Alex, that was a nice little echo we had there.
Am I still here? Am I still alive? Sorry about that. No, it's a very pretty thing. Look at his nice tilt.
Oh, yes.
What were you about to say, Chris?
No, I was waiting for it to be a pan and for you to say tilt just to annoy me by saying, hang on, you told me it was tilt. That's one thing I learned from Jack was that I used to think that in TV land, when they moved the camera up and down, left to right, that was all pan, regardless. I did not know what tilt was up and down.
There's pan, there's tilt, there's roll, there's dolly, there's zolly. Although I kind of hate zolly as a word, not as a camera thing. Let's keep doing some more questions while we watch this frost melt. I was going to say frost defrost, but that doesn't make sense. Misty's asking, in the future, how will crew be unloaded after a crewed ship catch? It's like an elevator kind of situation, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be something like that. That's a bit too far off, right? In the future, there's going to be many ways probably of loading people and unloading them as well after landing. I'm not going to venture to make any theories here because there could be many ways of doing that.
I mean, I figure even if there's like an elevator kind of like situation, there's got to be a ladder too, right? Like, we've all played Kerbal and not been able to get our Kerbals back up off the surface of Eve into our spacecraft because we didn't think to include a ladder. Am I right? It's happened to all of us, not just me.
It could be an integrated elevator on the ship. It could be that, just like on planes, you have the ramps going up to the plane and things like that. It could be that you just put it on a booster and then you just use the same gantry that you've used to load the people on board the ship. Like, it could be whatever, right? Just like you use a jetway, for example, for one of these planes and things like that. And so you have the stairs, you have the jetway. In the case of some planes also have their own stairs that you just deploy and you just step off, especially the smaller ones. So like maybe the Starship can also have its own elevator and you just step off using that elevator. So I don't know. But again, it's so far off. And by the way, Jack, if you're talking, you're muted. It's so far off in the future that I wouldn't venture to say.
I was just waiting for you to be done talking, buddy. I'm just not trying to crosstalk, you know. Wow, we have a $100 super from Russell Snodgrass. Russell, thank you so much. They say, I loved the Sparks video. I would totally watch 20 minutes of Frost, ... Loud and clear. Thank you so much, man. That is a exceptional amount of money. I think you also did a super on the video itself. And of course, you're always coming out on our streams and supporting us. Seriously, thank you. We do so much with so little. Cannot thank you enough. And everybody for doing what they do to support us. And it doesn't even have to be a monetary thing. You can just hit the like button, tell your friends about us. We appreciate you just the same. But Russell, holy cow, now and always coming out with the high dollar amounts. Thank you so much, dude. We could have actually done like an hour of Sparks, but at that point, it's like, does anyone want this? Oh, man. But yeah, Frost. We'll have to do a Frost video at some point. Noted. Thank you so much, buddy. Drunar, thanks for the support. They say SpaceX scrubbed sympathetically for iSpace. And ODST Moody, thanks for the support. They say lo-fi ice to propellant vent to. Oh, wait. Lo-fi hip-hop beats to relax and tank and detank cryogenic propellants to.
You know, it should be also like the tank farm with all of the venting and everything, the vents going off in each way and everything. Wow, that will slap.
Thanks, Alex. How old are you? I don't know if you're allowed to say slap.
Hang on, did Alex just say that was slap?
He did it on purpose. Listen to him laugh. He did it on purpose. He knows what he did.
I know very well what I did.
Good times. But thank you so much, Moody, as well. Thank you to everybody. Well, I think, given that the booster is detanking, and it'll be at least several hours until they're able to go again, if they are even able to go again today, again, they're going to have to get the propellant out of this, figure out what happened, and then potentially get into another attempt here, or maybe they'll just go tomorrow. But either way, I think we'll start to wrap up the stream here. Alex, thank you for being on and sharing with us your knowledge and wisdom and extreme cultural, like pop culture tidbits.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, if they were to try again today, might be a few more hours because just the detanking itself, it's going to take a while. It's usually around an hour and a half or so until it's detanked, and then they depressurize the booster. They do all these purges and everything of the OLM, so it's going to take a while until they get there, and then they need to go back into propellant load sequence, and that takes another hour. So it's going to be multiple hours if they even try today again. So yeah, thank you for watching and everything, and for having me here as well.
Of course. And Chris, always a delight to have NASASpaceflight's founder, the Burgonator, on stream. I really do mean that. It's always a treat.
Yeah, no, I can never take compliments. I always take it as sarcasm, as my way around it. But is that extra vehicles, or were they always there at the roadblock?
Hard to say. I see two vehicles that appear to be parked and waiting, and I see sort of the standard vehicles that are at the roadblock. I mean, I still think detanking ops are going to be a while, so while cars may start to line up, clearly it's going to be quite a bit, one way or the other.
One thing I'd say is that if anyone thinks, whoa, NSF is ending the web stream and they could easily be retanking soon. Well, no, they're not going to be retanking soon, but also you do not lose any views whatsoever because we have Starbase Live. You may not know that, so I'm making a point of saying it because you may not know that. You may have just turned upon just this dedicated stream and thinking, oh, cool, Starship, I can watch some Starship. And then when we end, think that's it. No, we got Starbase Live, so we'll have all the views continually going through 24/7, 7 days a week, even Christmas Day. all the way through the year, we'll be able to watch. And if anything does happen, such as a recycle, which probably will be tomorrow, to be fair, we'll be going live again, doing commentary again. So there we go. You'll never miss out.
Absolutely. All right, well, we also had Carson operating today's stream. Thank you to Carson for doing that and everything he does for NSF and for putting up with my stupid face. Seriously, thank you, Carson. I heard that chuckle.
I don't know where that came from.
All right, I think with that, I will let you all know that you can keep track of what's going on in Starbase and all around the spaceflight universe with the NSF social media accounts, X, IG, Facebook, wherever you are, even on TikTok. I'm Jack Beyer for NSF. Thank you for joining us. As always, the action continues on Starbase Live. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We'll see you guys whenever testing spools back up again here in Starbase. Until then, see ya.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Methane would be igniting the flare, correct?